one of the really cool things about doing a review show that occasionally we get a bit of a sneak peek at something that's just around the corner. And what would we do with all that information except share it with you, Kapowians?
Of course, and in that spirit, we have a look at a couple of titles that are coming up with their Australian release in September, both of which revolve around the impact of war. First off, there's a new title coming from Image Comics called Zero, written by Alice Cott.
A clandestine agent working on the shady side of conflicts, Edward Zero is a man of sudden violence and uncertain morality, looking back on the actions that he has taken during a time of war. The series will follow changes in Zero from issue to issue, and it's visualised by a change in artist as it continues.
Yeah, and it's quite a good lineup of artists as well. Starting with Michael Walsh, and then bringing in Mateus Santaluccio, Morgan Jeske, Trad Moore, and Tonchi Zonchik in later issues. It's early days, but I think this title is looking like one to watch.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really fascinating series to follow. Now, the next one we have is from our good old friends at Humanoids, and it's a much more grounded story than Zero, mainly due to the fact that it's a true story. Beirut 1990, snapshots of a civil war.
Now, you don't come across a lot of graphic novels that are also genuine wartime travelogues. This is probably the first one I've come across, but I think there's something especially affecting about this when you realise that none of this story is fabricated.
Yeah, I just kind of barreled my way into this one, and it wasn't until I kind of got halfway through that it suddenly clicked, and then I had to backtrack and kind of take all that on board. The story follows two brothers, Bruno and Sylvain Ricard, who travelled to Lebanon during the Civil War in 1990 as aid workers, and it's quite an unsettling story in many ways.
It certainly is. I found it very gratifying, for example, that there's no attempt to make these two men into heroes. They appear to you as naive and foolish foreigners stumbling into one of the most dangerous places on Earth in search of a thrill. They function as kind of a stand-in for the willful ignorance of Western society, not realising the gravity of the situation they're in until they're confronted with it violently.
And visually, this is a very interesting book as well. To begin with, I found Christophe Gautier's artwork almost childish and basic, but the personalities of the characters embody these sketchy depictions, and you really start to translate the images in your mind.
Whether the book would be as affecting if you didn't know that this was a true story, I can't honestly say, but the inclusion of photographs from their journey, when compared to the messy recreations of the images in the artwork, grounds it beautifully, and I did find this book something of a unique experience.
Very true. I think for anyone with an interest in recent conflicts, or indeed anyone who has an interest in how journalism can distort these conflicts, this is definitely a must-read for you.
Yeah, so that's our sneak peeks for now, but stay tuned for more up-and-coming titles and insider goss.
Goss?
Yeah, I can't carry that one off, can I? No, withdrawn.